fertilizer prices, high transport prices. That's feeding back into the food system and causing costs to go up. The weak U.S. dollar, I mean, you don't see it so much sitting in London or in Europe or even Japan, but boy, sitting in the United States and looking at these prices in dollars is a big shock. That's partly an exchange rate effect, a macroeconomic effect, not necessarily a food effect, but it feeds directly into the food markets. Those are kind of basic factors that all just layer on top of each other. You just kind of put one on top of another and you begin to sense there's some real density to the momentum that's building there. You put on top of that two things. I happen to think the biofuel mandates in the U.S. and in Europe are not quite the trigger, but certainly a major reason why markets have become sort of only upwardly mobile in the last year or so. There is this very real concern that the need to put liquid fuels in our SUVs or in trucks is going to starve poor people, and that there's only so much agricultural land to go around. And I understand Ed Schaefer, the U.S. Agriculture Secretary, is saying, only 2 to 3% of the recent increase is biofuels. I don't think that factors in the role of the last item on my list, which is speculation, commodity hoarding, export bans, concerns about food price inflation right around the world, and a political withdrawal, basically, from trade in favor of we better protect our own consumers. And that last factor, the speculation, the hoarding, the export bans, is the trigger that set this whole thing off.
And some countries, the Philippines, for example, are trying to build up their rice stocks to protect themselves at a later date.
The Philippines are trying to build their stocks. Indonesia is trying to build its stocks. The Chinese are clearly rebuilding their stocks. Indians have rebuilt their stocks. In a period of shortage, the very worst thing you can do is try to rebuild stocks, because that requires even greater cutbacks in consumption.
But do you understand why countries might reach for that option?
Of course. I mean, if every individual country is on its own, it's the only sensible political decision to make. You have to look after your own people. I want to be sure we get one other dimension in our mention. I am of the opinion that financial speculation is a significant part of the momentum.
So just to explain this a little bit further, you're saying that a key part of this problem is that hedge funds and others who would normally make money and speculate on stocks or property, real estate.
Subprime mortgages? Yes, exactly.
They're now doing the same for food.
They're looking for the next big run-up in prices. It was tech stocks in the 90s, then it was the subprime mortgage deals that they could do. As those progressively pop, the Fed keeps pumping liquidity into the system to keep our economy running, and that liquidity has to go somewhere. And it's not going into the stock market. It is not going into the real estate market. It's now going into commodity markets.
What will help this perfect storm ease? I mean, of all the factors you've mentioned, you're not going to stop living standards rising in China and India at the moment. Biofuels, well, perhaps. Maybe the dollar will rise. What needs to change?
I'm a specialist on the rice market, so I'm looking at that one in particular. That happens to be the one where the welfare consequences of continued really high prices would be the greatest. If you could bring some additional supply into that market and kind of prick the bubble, you could at least get back to something only double normal instead of 6 times normal prices. And we've got 1.5 million tons that could go into the market. The rice price has dropped to $250 a ton since this proposal went public about 3 weeks ago. So we feel helpless when you look at this list of things that, as you say, you're not going to do anything about those. Those are just real factors. But the bubble is not real. The bubble we can break, and that's what we're doing.
Professor Peter Timmer from Stanford University. In the United States, the Democratic Party is holding its last 2 primary elections in South Dakota and Montana, a full 6 months after the voters in snowy Iowa expressed their choice. The front page of Hillary Clinton's website continues to urge people to sign up as supporters to help make history, as the site puts it. But the senator's hopes of being the next president could soon be history. There are suggestions she will concede later tonight that Barack Obama has enough delegates to win. Let's join our North America editor, Justin Webb, in Washington. What's the word from the Clinton campaign?
Highly complex is the answer to that, and we really don't know quite what is going on. There was a report earlier on the very reputable news agency, the Associated Press, who have good contacts in the Hillary Clinton campaign. One of their people, in fact two of their people, telling the Associated Press that it was essentially over, and using this form of words, that she was going to accept this evening that Barack Obama had enough delegates to win, but that she was not going to concede formally, and she was not going to suspend her campaign, and that is what the presidential candidate does when he or she pulls out. Hillary Clinton's top supporters then, including Terry McAuliffe, the chairman, who's talked on this program quite often in the past, is a very colourful character. He came out and said, it's absolute nonsense. 100% false, he said. She is not going to concede. But then the original report did not suggest that she was immediately going to concede. So there is, as we speak, to be perfectly honest, some confusion about what she's going to say, the extent to which she is going to admit what most other people regard as reality, which is that she can't win.
Meanwhile, people are voting. What sort of a state is her campaign in?
Well, she's running out of money. And in a way she doesn't need money anymore because this is the final vote today, but she is still in real difficulties. She's not able to run a full campaign, and for political reasons as well as financial reasons, it would be difficult for her to do that through the summer. And indeed her own husband, Bill Clinton, seemed in the last 24 hours or so to acknowledge that they were reaching the end of the road.
This may be the last day I'm ever involved in a campaign of this kind. I thought I was out of politics till Hillary decided to run. But it has been one of the greatest honors of my life to be able to go around and campaign for her for president.
Does the Obama camp think tonight's the night?
Yes, I think they think that either tonight is the night or pretty soon afterwards, and it's simply for them a matter of the delegate maths. They believe that they will have a reasonable number. He needs 2,118 to get over the top, and when I last looked he was about 40 short of that. He's getting superdelegates by dribbles all the time. He should get a few delegates tonight, so he expects that to happen, I think. And when you listen to what Obama says about Clinton, it's all very conciliatory and suggests that he really does believe he's there and she is going to concede and he's going to behave graciously to her.
I emphasized to her what an extraordinary race that she's run, and said that there aren't too many people who understand exactly how hard she's been working. I'm one of them because she and I have been on this same journey together, and told her that once the dust settled, I was looking forward to meeting with her at a time and place of her choosing.
Trouble is, the dust just refuses to settle. Even as he was saying that, Bill Clinton was out saying that the media had it in for his wife, that it had been an extraordinarily biased campaign against her, and that Barack Obama had been using other people to slime her. So at the very stage that he's trying to bring this all in for a gentle landing, there are still some in the Clinton camp, Eddie, who want to keep it going.
Justin, thanks for that. Obviously the world tonight is keeping across developments. There'll be more on Radio 4 at 10. Perhaps you've been in this position yourself. You've waited and queued at a railway station for so long, in fact, that your train is about to leave. So you run to catch it, and when you get on board, you get a penalty fare for not having a ticket. It's something that IPM is going to talk about this week. If you've experienced that sort of penalty fare, or you've got a view to share, please go to the PM blog and let us know more. It's bbc.co.uk/blogs/PM. Now, here's Fran Abrams to tell us about File on Ford at 8 o'clock tonight.
Hi, Eddie. Later this month, terrorism experts from all over the world will be gathering in London. They're marking the end of a year in which Britain's led international efforts to tackle jihadi funding. The government says it's been a success. But if that's the 13 suspected terrorists running UK companies? And what about the case of the London bank accused by the US of channeling funds to Hezbollah? Why has it never had a visit from our government inspectors? So, are we really winning the financial war on terror? That's File on 4, tonight at 8 o'clock.
It's 5:31. David Miles has the news.
The head of the governing body of world motorsport, Max Mosley, has won a vote of confidence at a meeting in Paris.